meant freedom for all. Once WB ceased to exist, Poe immediately left the game. I loved the game, so I had to switch to Duke of York. It was a tragedy for me. All my game life I played on WB, and now I lost to the traitors who created Duke of York. But I had to play Duke of York because there were not many alternatives. When I got there, they treated me like a dog, like a slave, and I was bullied. The great dictator who ran the entire WB server is now here on Duke of York, and without power. He is no longer strong. And we can bully him. That's what the players at Duke of York yelled. Hein van der Weyde, however, had sympathy for me. Although I gave him a ban, I have to say that our relationship was better than it may seem. Timo protested very much, but after a couple of weeks I was suddenly led by Hein. 53. For Timo and other members this must have been shocking. Joseph, the man who fought for the WB server all the time and wanted to destroy the Duke of York all the time, now heads the server. It is worth mentioning the path taken by the Duke of York. This server did not want to go in the direction of WB from the beginning of the archaic era. Hein van der Weyde and Timo wanted to make the server a WB counterpart where there would be no strong owners and where everyone would have the opportunity to express themselves. So they wanted to follow the path of the US servers, which are founded by a group of friends, mostly from one clan, and this group of friends manage the server. There is no hierarchy or fear, and administrators have a relatively unlimited right. I spoke about the very short rules of Duke of York in the archaic era. So I have to say that Hein and Timo had a lot of server owners, but they weren't as cruel as Poe or me on WB. They treated their administrators as friends and gave them fair rights. Administrators decided on a lot of things, did not have too many limits, and overall they could do what they wanted. The rules were short, the recruits test didn't exist, everything was created in a way that is sustained by friendship. As soon as I came to Duke of York, I started writing late era. This era is typical of my reforms, which once again distracts Duke of York from the US and turns the server back to the name of WB. I must say that all of my reforms that I have done were only from my head or from the head of Hein van der Weyde, but since I grew up and started on WB, the WB ratios were quite tainted. After all, I loved WB, dear friends, and I always took this server as the best server. I've been working here for a long time, and I'm quite used to it. No wonder my reforms were directed to the dictatorship and to the cult of WB itself. My reforms include limiting administrator rules to a minimum, limiting ban to 1 hour maximum. Administrator password must not be shared and received from server owners when changing server. Enemies are being persecuted, Joseph's personal cult is being created, unban is forbidden, rules are expanding from 4 pages to 40 pages, setting up the tests that need to be accomplished as an administrator, changing the layout of the administration group from democratic to cult of 2 strong people who control everything. In my thoughts it was me and Hein van der Weyde. As you can see, my reforms went back to my WB server, and this was a shock for Duke of York administrators. Hein van der Weyde was enthusiastic about my thoughts and reforms and supported me without limits. And this is why there was a war between me and Hein against Timo with the HC clan in the server. Timo and the HC clan wanted to leave Duke of York in the old ways. This also created stalwaitism, when my thoughts were combined with the ideas of Hein van der Weyde, and this created a kind of ideology that was supposed to lead the server itself. If we look at the ideas of stalwaitism or the organization of the stalwaitist server, it is obvious that these two things were strongly influenced by my stay at WB. I don't mean to say that WB was better than Duke of York. I've been a WB fan for a long time, but as soon as Duke of York came under stalwaitism, I started to love Duke of York, and believe me, I will never stop loving it. Because Duke of York living under stalwaitism is the way it so would be. The server I will always stand for. If we compare the Duke of York after the stalwaitist revolution, which is most of the time on the server, we have done way bigger things than in WB. 54. The Duke of York proved impossible to beat under the rule of stalwaitism. Two strong leaders, Hein van der Weyde and I, have been running this server for an incredibly long time. That Duke of York without stalwaitism is no longer Duke of York, because there is no one to remember Duke of York without Joseph or Hein. We've been here for so long that the archaic era when Timo was here is just a little spark in the long history of the entire server. Under my rule, the server became the largest, most popular server, where there were two strong leaders, strong rules, tough tests, persecution of opponents, restrictions on the rights of administrators and other stalwaitist rules. So Duke of York is the most popular and most advanced WOTR server, and I dare say that it is also the best server in Mordho. The fact that Duke of York was able to switch from WOTR to Mordho without suffering popularity is perhaps sufficient proof that Duke of York is just perfect. The charts also show that the server is the top server in Mordho, another celebration of stalwaitism. With this text, I would like to point out that the history of Duke of York is very long, but most of the time the server remains in stalwaitism, and this late in its history Duke of York without stalwaitism makes no sense. At the same time, I would like to point out that the Duke of York in the archaic era and the Duke of York after the stalwaitism victory are two very different servers, or at least that is because the server behaved quite differently at the time. The last thing I want to show in this document is that WB and Duke of York in the archaic era shine different in all principles. However, Duke of York after stalwaitism's victory and WB are also very similar, precisely because I have always been more minded by the WB system than other democratic or American servers. So I can say that I grew up on WB and learned all the essentials I need to come to the Duke of York, take over the power and shoot the Duke of York in the right direction. I can say with no doubt in my mind that the right direction is stalwaitism, the ideas of Joseph and Hein van der Weyde touched with the help of the old nostalgia of the WB server, created by Joseph. 55. Duke of York Dual Server. Discord rules. Last updated, December 22nd, 2019. Created by Joseph. Duke of York has been around for a long time, and no wonder we've come to a stage where our Discord server is so crowded that we need to set up admins on the Discord server, in addition to server admins and Warzone admins. So we have come to the stage where, besides ordinary servers and Warzone servers, we also need Discord server support. Since this feature is new, and this is the first version of the rules and overall manual for moderators on the Discord server, I apologize if this passage is shorter than the other snippets of the PDF document. But the question is, why did this happen? The answer is simple. Our Discord server grew to a size that we cannot control every message. And therefore we are not able to guarantee our visitors the quality they are accustomed to. At the same time, we lose track of what is being communicated and, last but not least, we are unable to effectively respond to all the reports, calls for help, and other matters that we should know. So what should be the role of Discord admins? These administrators will have special rights on the Discord server. These rights will allow them to mute, kick, or ban. This will prevent unwanted spam, racism, and any messages that do not belong to our server. At the same time, these people are very communicative and enjoy the conversation. Therefore, these people will have an overview of social events and at the same time capture all the news that would be worth the attention of the server owner.